by the dawn's early light, once so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land under the brave and the home of the brave? Yes, we are the brave. We'll fight here in the name of the brave. We are the U.S. of A. For those unaware, that flag is still there. It's our future to save. This land of the brave, the U.S. of A. Just that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the brave and the
The trail of the 3rd Army and the 19th Tactical Air Command and the 8th Air Force is marked by more than 40,000 white crosses, 40,000 dead Americans.
We were young and soldiers called to dedicate our lives in the name of God and country. Do what's just, boys. Go do what's right. A band of brothers waiting on our chance to add one more page unto the victory dance. Here am I, Lord, send me, send me. Victory lies in the spirit of the lives of the men who died for me.
Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us? Send me.
Send me, oh, send me.
This is Michael Broderick, Marine Corps veteran, actor, and Gallant Few board member. You are listening to the New American Veteran on Vets on Media. Now here's Carl Monger.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today is September 30th, 2014. Welcome to the New American Veteran. TNAV is a broadcast of Gallant Few, Inc., a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is to prevent veteran isolation by connecting new veterans with hometown veteran mentors, thereby facilitating a peaceful, successful transition from military service to a civilian life filled with hope and purpose. Our goal is to connect every new veteran with a hometown veteran mentor, and we do this by creating and supporting a nationwide network of successfully transitioned veterans that engage locally with new veterans with the same military background now going through transition themselves. We believe this will prevent veteran unemployment, homelessness, and suicide.
They teach you a lot in the service.
Oh, I gotta love that. I just had a crash on my program here, so let me back out of that guy. God, we were doing so well. We were doing so well. I don't know if that stuff's gonna open back up on me or not, but I guess we'll find out here in a little bit. One of the things that I was getting ready to do right there is play the amazing public service ad that Doten Bayer, a ranger out in Los Angeles with the veterans in film and TV, put together for us. So maybe we'll try and play that again here in just a little bit. A couple of announcements I want to make real quick this end of this week. The 2nd and 3rd of October, there are events going on both ends of the country. In Columbus, Georgia, the 75th Ranger Regiment is holding a celebration of the 30th anniversary of the founding of the regiment. And way out on the West Coast in Tacoma, Washington, Lewis McChord Joint Base, they're doing a 40th anniversary celebration of the founding of the 2nd Ranger Battalion. Both events going on pretty much the same day. So unfortunately, not all of us can make both of those. And I'm going to be at Fort Benning. So any of you folks that are going to be in that area, please come look me up. And I'll be there all day on the 3rd. I'm actually coming in midday on the 2nd. I've got a couple of meetings lined up. And then I'm really looking forward to the social at the National Infantry Museum Thursday evening. And then Friday morning, the ceremony at the National Ranger Memorial right there in front of the old Building 4 area. And then from that, inside the auditorium there, I think they call it Wickham Hall now. And we're going to I'll get to watch the State of the Regiment address, which if you're in the area, you can attend and watch that. It's amazing. And then the distinguished members of the regiment ceremony will follow immediately thereafter. And then a couple more meetings, and I'll be blasting back up to Atlanta to fly out. So please, if you're there, do look me up. I also want to make sure that you know about a couple of things that are going on as we start moving towards the kickoff for Run Ranger Run. Excuse me. The last 2 years, there's been a couple of things that have happened just in the last couple of days. I've received messages from veterans that I have worked with that gave this organization credit for them being alive today. And I turned around and I passed that information to folks like Corey Smith, who on his own initiative did the sua sponte thing, and darn near 3 years ago now, in 2012, decided to step out and run from Columbus, Georgia back to Indianapolis. And there's a pretty cool news article. It was actually broadcast piece on Corey here last month. And then he called me the other day just to let me know how excited he is as he moves into his final phase of nursing training, and he's been selected for his final internship, I think that's what you call it, in an emergency room there, which is a pretty dynamic setting for him to be in. So anyway, if it wasn't for Corey starting Run Ranger Run by getting out there and pounding the pavement a couple of years ago, Gallant Few would not exist today. If it wasn't for Candace Bryant, who put together a team of volunteers and has grown Ranger Run into an event that touches almost 1,700 people last year. We'd like to touch 17,000 people this year, but that has given us the ability to focus on the things that help us prevent veterans from having bad things happen to them. And so the couple of messages that I got, one of them said, quote, literally, the organization saved his life. and he wanted to express his gratitude and how now he's landed on his feet. He's surrounded by a community that cares about him, and now he's already starting to give back into that community so that he can help others. And that's what it's all about. We've got to prevent that isolation that happens when you leave active duty. And I was having this conversation yesterday on the telephone with a Ranger veteran who is still on active duty, but he is on his way through the transitioning process. And my word of caution is there really are only 3 ways that you leave a unit like the 75th Ranger Regiment and don't feel embarrassed or disappointed in yourself for the way you leave. And that is, you either retire because you've been there for so long that time's up and you've got to go do something else, or you've been selected for an even more selective unit, so that's kind of like being promoted out, or you're promoted out of the unit. You know, you can only go as high as battalion commander there, and then you got to go off somewhere else, and then if you're really, really lucky, you get to come back and command the regiment. But then they don't have any use for officers above colonel in the regiment. But when you're looking at, gosh, I don't know, maybe you're a master sergeant, you're getting promoted, but you're MOS, you're not going to have the opportunity to stay there. You're going to have to go someplace else. Those are examples of honorable ways to leave, ways that are not positive ways to leave. If you say, hey, my private life, my civilian education, my personally are now a higher priority in my life than service in this unit is, you leave active duty, and this happened to me 20 plus years ago, with a sense of having failed those that you served with. And now, fully knowing that they're going back to war, there is a feeling that is universal among these Rangers that are leaving active duty, that they're abandoning their team, that they've failed them, that they've let them down. And unfortunately, what the net result of all that is somebody that abandons or not actively do not seek to stay engaged with the community because they're afraid of what somebody might say, or they're afraid of the embarrassment or shame that could come along with that. So another way is you get injured. Maybe you have a back injury, or maybe you've got a traumatic brain injury, something that is not readily visible from the outside, but you know you can't keep on doing what you're doing, so you've got to get out. Probably not even bad enough that you're going to ask for a disability rating, because you've seen men that have lost their arms and legs, and they're carrying on in every way that they can. And so to you, it's being a real wuss when you take that physical pain that you're going through. Sometimes maybe it's emotional pain, and you decide you can't do that anymore. Sense of failure, sense of frustration, sense of abandoning your comrades. All of those things. That sense that your comrades are going to turn their backs on you is untrue. And in every case that I've seen so far, it is untrue, because if they served with you, they knew the kind of person that you are, they respect you. The fact that you've gone on to do something else with your life, it's okay with them. And if it's not, they'll get over it, and you'll still remain good friends and be able to help each other out. But you cannot isolate from the community from which you come, and that really doesn't have that much difference if you're in a combat engineer unit, if you're in an Air Force wing, if you're assigned to a ship. Those comrades that you serve with, the day you walk away from them, it's like a death in the family. So my caution, my advice to this Ranger that's leaving active duty is, do not let that happen to him. Do not let that isolation happen. And make sure all the other kids out there that are coming behind him know that this organization is out here, because it doesn't cost a Ranger a penny to belong to it. It doesn't cost a regular 1st Infantry Division soldier, or a 2nd Armored Division soldier, or a Marine Corps veteran. It doesn't cost any veteran, any branch of the service, a penny to come to this network. And we will do everything that we can to help get you reconnected, to help give you the tools that you need to accelerate into your civilian life, and live on, like I said at the beginning, with a sense of hope and purpose. All right, I've been rambling long enough, and I could do this for quite a long time, so I am going to invite my guest to come up online. I see him lurking down there in the corner. Once he unmutes his microphone, then we'll be able to bring him online. I am very pleased today to be able to bring Kevin Ryan, who is an Army veteran, West Point graduate, and current brewmeister, onto the show. Kevin, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, how's the weather in Savannah today?
Well, it's finally cooling down a little bit. We're in the mid-80s, which is a lot better than 100 with 100% humidity.
when I reported in to Savannah about like 25 years ago, I drove from, I want to say it was from Atlanta nonstop. And when I got into Savannah, I opened up the door and my sunglasses fogged over, and I knew I was in big trouble.
Yeah. Well, it's even nicer when you're working inside a brewery without air conditioning and you're boiling liquids all day.
Oh yeah, but you've got to have some cold beer around there someplace so you can refresh yourself.
Absolutely. Got to stay hydrated.
All right, so tell me a little bit about your military background. You're a West Pointer. Went, if I remember right, jumped out of some airplanes. Probably went to a couple of cool schools. Tell us about your service.
Yeah. Well, I graduated in '96 from West Point. I already spent 2 summers at Fort Benning, going through airborne school and being a drill cadet down there. Did the officer basic training school, ranger school, mortar leader course, and then headed off to Fort Richardson, Alaska. You mentioned a lot about the Rangers. I was actually Colonel Vanek of the 75th was a company commander in my unit when I was up there in Alaska. Played with his younger brother. And one of my classmates is now the commander of 175. But spent 3 years up there, jumped out about 68 airplanes, pushed a few people out, and then went into the mechanized world at Fort Carson when I was with the 3rd Brigade 4ID. Deployed to Iraq in early 2003. 3rd ID had secured Baghdad, and we pushed through to the north and rumbled around for a while and then settled in around Balad. Midway through that tour, I changed from commander of 112 Infantry to the headquarters command of 18 Infantry to the mid-2004, April 2004. Came back and decided that after I brought everybody home from Iraq, it was a good time for me to transition to the civilian world.
So at that time, you really hadn't planned on making beer. You had.
No, I was just consuming.
I can imagine being over there for an extended deployment and not having anything readily available. A lot of anticipation was running through your mind before you came back.
Yeah, absolutely. There was once we got to actually a PX system, probably 3/4 of the way through our deployment, and the best beer that I've ever consumed was a non-alcoholic Warsteiner that was probably 90 degrees. But yes, once we got back home, it was really nice.
Well, the Germans drink it warm anyway, so that's probably the way it was meant to be. Yeah, everybody should start drinking Warsteiner warm, and then maybe no, I can't do that. I got to drink it like ice cold. All right, so from there you went into healthcare management up in New York.
Yeah, actually, you talked a little bit about transition in your lead-in, and that was a very interesting time for me. I was kind of the first person in our group to transition out of the military, and I had a lot of people following behind me. I tried to use junior officer placement companies, but what I really found very useful to me was just networking. As many clubs and meetings as I could go to, I went and met as many people as I could, and that really helped me get into a job with Booz Allen Hamilton. So I left the military and I went up to Michigan for 4 months, where I worked for Booz Allen Hamilton in the Future Combat Systems program before I transitioned into healthcare management. So that was my kind of obvious military transition, leaving as a company commander and getting into a contractor job with Booz Allen Hamilton. But then I had this opportunity to work for a healthcare management company out in New York, and it was just much like changing positions in the military, walking into a brand new position where you have no idea what you're doing. I had zero knowledge of healthcare management. I had zero knowledge of IT, and they put me in as the chief technology officer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
For me, I talk a lot about the 3 years that I spent in the Ranger Regiment, but the absolute most fulfilling job that I had when I was in the Army was commanding a light infantry company of the 25th ID. And tell me about going from the environment of commanding a company back-to-back companies and then leaving active duty and going into the Booz Allen Hamilton world. There's a lot of military folks there, so that might have mitigated that a little bit, but still it had to be an incredible culture.
It was like throwing things in reverse. It was so slow, so regimented. I Booz Allen offered online courses, and I think I went through 30 of them in the first couple weeks that I was there because I just couldn't keep myself occupied. I wanted to be fully engaged at all hours of the day, and that was probably the hardest part of the transition, was going from a job that's 24/7 to a more mixed in with civilian government worker job where people are much less aggressively approaching their work.
Yeah, that's putting it very politely the way you say that. I appreciate that. At what point, as you're in the healthcare business, at what point did you say, hey, I want to not only maybe explore brewing as a profession, but I want to own my own business? That's a huge step right there.
Well, a lot of inspiration came from my father. He had started his own company, and I got to learn and work with him in that healthcare management job. And I'd always been a fan of craft beer. And girlfriend bought me a homebrew kit, and I jumped in with both feet, was brewing beer every weekend, and all my friends were asking for me to bring the next batch to their event or their house, or, hey, we're having a picnic, why don't you come? I was very popular all of a sudden. So my father passed away in 2011, and it was time for me to transition into something else. And I didn't have I don't have children. I'm not married, so I didn't have a little less risk involved with stepping away and starting out on my own. And so I did it. Took the leap, and decided that the brewery was my passion, and I would jump into it and go as far as possible.
I don't want you to give away any of your trade secrets or anything, but I've seen the pictures. I put them up earlier. I'll try and pull one up here again and show it to the audience while we're talking, but of the outside of your building, and then looks like you have a bar or tasting area set up inside. It's very professional. It's very, very nice. It's when you look at it, it's like, wow, that's a very attractive kind of a place. How did you get a small business loan? Did you have some money that was squirreled away? How did you start making that initial process? Because a lot of the veterans that I speak with, when they start thinking about, yeah, I'd like to go into business for myself, but I need to have $20,000 or I need to have X, Y, and Z before they can start. How'd you do that?
Well, luckily I was able to reach out to my network of coworkers as well as veterans to start raising funds for the business. Before I took the leap, started writing the business plan, laying out the groundwork and determining what kind of funds were going to be necessary. And instead of walking away and then starting to raise money, we started that fundraising process early. There are a lot of loans out there available especially to veterans that have very low generation costs or no generation costs. I met with my small business development council here in Savannah. They were extremely helpful. No charge to review the business plan, provide guidance, and connect me with folks that provide those business loans. So there's not one that I needed to use, but one that's very much available to veterans called the Patriot Express. Small business loan available from larger banks like a Wells Fargo, a Bank of America, a PNC, or a RBC that have zero generation charges associated with that loan that can really get people the start that they need.
You talked about the Small Business Development Center. That's outstanding because, and if you go, anybody out there that's listening to this, if you want to find out a great local resource that's not going to cost you anything to use, Google SBDC, Small Business Development Center. And typically they're associated with a community college, although depending on where it is, it might be a university, but usually it's a community college. And they've got folks there that their whole life is helping small businesses start or small businesses grow. And they really like it when veterans come in there because they don't have enough of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can't say it enough that, even if you're thinking about it, it's just an idea in your head. You can't get in to see those folks too early, and they will bend over backwards to help you out.
I remember talking to a guy just a couple of years after I left active duty, and I don't believe that he was in the military, but he had, now this was mid 90s, and IT was really just starting to kind of begin to blossom at that point. And he had a couple of network certifications, and he came in and helped a business that I worked at completely RFID its inventory so they could scan things coming in and out. It was like going into the space age for this small business. And I talked to him and I said, how do you get going? How did you start? And I don't think it was a lot easier than I thought. And he didn't want me to know that. Maybe he thought I was going to be in competition or something, but he was just like, oh yeah, you can go hang your shingle out and just say I'm a midnight violin repair guy. I still remember that term. And you're in business for yourself. But so I never took that leap at that point, and I really regret not doing that.
Yeah, for me it was I could have easily transitioned to another healthcare management job, but it was an opportunity for me to follow my passion. And I'm the guy that I'm cleaning toilets, washing floors, scrubbing the deck, but
CEOs don't do that.
Yeah, we do. We do it for a while at least, but it doesn't matter if it's because it's mine. And when it's yours, you obviously are a lot more closely tied to it, and you put your heart and soul into it.
So tell me, what's your typical workday like? What time do you start in the morning? What time do you get done at night?
Well, there is no typical work day, but especially now they're good 10, 12-hour days. Leading up to the first sale of our beer and leading up to the opening day of our tasting room, those were 20-hour days, getting everything ready. Whether it was painting a wall, installing we've got a phenomenal American flag that's framed and hung on 2 containers inside of our tasting room. And we had to get all of that ready before we open our doors, and nothing ever gets done on time. So you do it until it's done. But today, now that we've got the tasting room open, our master brewer is actually a 1978 grad from West Point, and he likes to start at 7 a.m. in the morning for his brewing cycle, so he can get done around 2 or 3 p.m. and clean up and get home in a decent hour. But once you're done working, then in the brewery, you've got to get out and now support your product, support your creations out in restaurants, bars, or other places that are having activities where your beer is sold. So when you're done brewing, you start marketing.
That's how I found out about you guys, because I was in Savannah for the 175 Family Picnic Day on their 40th anniversary celebration, and you guys had a trailer there with live taps on the side. I went in line, got a beer, and I only had one because I had to drive to Atlanta and get on a plane to fly out of there. But your product was very good, and it was very timely because it was kind of a warm day. But I want to touch back on what you just talked about, because one of the things that it seems like there's a good number of veterans that I speak with, when they leave active duty, they think, I worked so hard when I was in the military, I don't have to work that hard anymore. And then after 6 months or a year, they're like, how come I'm not being as successful as I was? Or how come things aren't moving along as quick as they are? Or how come I haven't found a job yet? And I ask them, are you working as hard now at getting a job or selling your first XYZ or whatever it is that you're trying to do? Are you working as hard as you did to go to Ranger School, to get ready to go to Ranger School? Because the young enlisted guys got to go through about 5 different pre-Ranger programs before they ever get to go. You have to bust your butt. You can't expect to just walk in and everything's going to be laid out in front of you. You got to work just as hard now as you did back then, and if you want to be successful and have things accelerate. And then down the road, just like in the military, as you get more advanced in experience, there are ways that you don't have to have maybe that same kind of pace, but it's always going to be, if you want to keep getting better, you always have to keep applying yourself more and more.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's opportunities for folks to have a job that's going to be a 9-to-5 or a desk job, but that's typically not something that's going to satisfy someone that's coming out of the military. They're going to want something a little more rewarding. And if that's what you're looking for, then you have to go and hunt it down. And I think that, as we talked about transition, that's exactly what you have to do. You have to research every networking opportunity there is. You have to not be afraid to reach back to every person you've ever met in your military career, and every person that lives on your street or across the street, because you'll never know who you're going to run into and who they work for or who they might know or what opportunities they might have that they just don't realize that you're looking for. And that's where the opportunity is going to come from. Posting a job on a board is not going to get you where you want to be.
No, you're absolutely right about that. You talked about just a minute there about fulfillment. One of the things that you have done, and you're pretty straightforward about it when you look at your company website and even what you sent me in your bio, you have already, even though your business is brand new, you just sold your first beer 23rd of July 2014, you're already giving back. You want to talk a little bit about your philosophy in that and what you do?
Well, I've always had a charitable focus in my life, but an example I try to give people is when I was in Iraq, once the mail started coming, we were receiving packages and support from people all over the country that had no idea who we were. They just knew we were soldiers, we were deployed, and they wanted to make us feel more comfortable, give us a treat, make us feel a little more at home, or just tell us that they were thinking about us. And that was a big morale booster. That really kept people engaged and kept their spirits up. To use our beer and our marketing as a way and means to raise that continue to support service. And for us, it's not just service members in the military, but it's people who are serving their country or the community. So when we decided we were going to organize our launch event in the community, we had our event at the American Legion, and the two charities that we benefited were Honor Flight Savannah, that they bring veterans to the memorials in D.C., and then the 200 Club of the Low Country, which supports the families of fallen firefighters and policemen. So two highly rated charities. The 200 Club is 100% volunteer, so every dollar that's raised goes to they put kids of a fallen firefighter through college. And they go that far. It's not just a dinner and a flower basket. It's all in support.
That's awesome. Those are very worthy things to support, and it's important. I agree with you. It's important for you to be able to give back like that, especially in your own community. And I always, whenever I talk about this stuff, I always put out there, do not ever, ever donate to an organization unless you know what they do with that money. You talked about the 200 Club being 100% volunteer. There are other organizations out there that are almost the opposite of that.
Yes.
And very few of their resources actually goes to support. So it doesn't matter how slick their marketing campaign is, do not donate unless you know exactly what it is that they do with the funds that you give them.
Oh, absolutely.
Where are you just Savannah based now? Is there how much of a footprint do you have? Can people buy your beer bottled and canned, or is it all on tap now?
So we're distributing in the Savannah area. We get out to, if anybody's familiar with the Savannah area, we get out to Statesboro, down to St. Simons and Brunswick. We don't distribute outside the state of Georgia yet. We will before the end of the year. We will start canning our Ground Pounder Pale Ale and our Compass Rose IPA beginning next week. So by the second week of October, that beer will start to get out to convenience stores. I'm working on a license to distribute the state of Maryland right now. First and foremost is to get our beer to the Army-Navy football game in support of Tailgate for Troops. But also, as you can imagine, the Delmarva area is a huge veteran community that will support our brand and recognize the value of our product.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on owning your own business and on your success so far. Every time I come out there to Savannah, I'll make sure and look you up so I can taste another one of your beers.
Yeah, absolutely. We brewed up another research and development batch today. So if you come by our tasting room, we're always going to have a couple of beers on tap that you can't get anywhere else.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Check in every once in a while. Let us know how you're going. And when you get any materials, advertising materials, if you do a commercial or an audio ad or something, shoot it over to me so that I can play it on this show.
All right, great.
If you need somebody to record one, talk to me.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you for being on the show, Kevin.
My pleasure.
Now I'm going to bounce back over here, and I'm going to see if I'm successful at playing that doggone video that did not want to play the first time through. So let's see what happens. I think the last time I tried to play it twice in a row. There we go.
They teach you a lot in the service. Teach you how to stand straight and fire your rifle. They teach you respect and survival. They teach you how to take a life and how to give your own. But they don't teach you what happens when you come home. There are over 2 million people in the U.S. Armed Forces. For some, coming home is the hardest part. As a veteran, you are not alone. Reach out, call a battle buddy, and take the Spartan Pledge today. For more information, visit us on the web at descendantsofsparta.com.
Congo was a major highway for Taliban and enemy activity.
See the dude running, and then you see him blowing into pieces.
We forced the boys to go out continuously. You'd hear the enemy just going crazy trying to figure out where we were.
We're definitely bait.
Yeah, it's frightening.
Until you hear the snap of a bullet go by your head, there's nothing else like it.
Your turn! I'm on fire!
You see the guys on edge, like, when's the next round?
I think a lot of us kind of miss that adrenaline.
You do terrible things. Then you have to live with them afterwards.
It messes with your head in every way.
I'm not doing this for recognition from my country. I'm not doing this so that somebody goes, wow. Except for those guys to my left and my right. Because that's what it's about. Those guys are what it's about.
All right, that I think I was looking at iViewverse cable, and it's either on the pre-orders that are coming out or it's on by demand. I want to say it's the pre-orders because I think I flagged it so that we could watch it at some point. But that's a show that you're going to want to watch. I saw the other one that he did, that Restrepo, phenomenal piece. So go take a look at that. The other thing that I was going to do here is I was going to play this clip that Boone sent to me for the Spartan Pledge, only I'm not sure if it's going to pop up as video or not. So I think this time maybe I will wait, and I will play it the next time that I know absolutely for sure that it's going to be successful.
This is Sergeant First Class Retired Mike Schlitz. Thank you for listening to Gallant Fuse, the new American veteran, on Vets on Media.
You know, I think I've got the Spartan Pledge video here, so let's see if I can play it, see what happens. And we're not getting very good volume off of that guy. Boone, talk to me. Huh. Well, that's a little unusual because the sound is working everywhere else except when Boone is talking. So, see, I should have followed my instincts from the first and just not played it. Thank you for joining the New American Veteran today. It is always an honor to have you listening to the show. There is so much out there in terms of veteran support that has been done and is still to be done. So please check out Gallant Few. Go to gallantfew.org to find out how you can get involved. Look at runrangerrun.com, because as Run Ranger Run gears up, we're going to need to have lots of people focused on that. And I meant to show this the other day, and I don't think that I remember to do it. Last weekend, Operation Roller did a little motorcycle rally in the Kansas City area, Topeka, Kansas. And one of the things that he wanted to make sure to get the message out was about the Spartan Pledge. So he had me make these cards up that he was able to hand out to everybody that participated. And I have a bunch of these. If you want some of these cards, go to gallantfew.org, top right corner, either call me or send me an email and ask for some. And what I've done is they're not laminated, or they're not. So on the backside, you can write your battle buddy or your ranger buddy or your shipmate. You can write their contact information on the back so that you've always got that in your wallet, and you can make sure and stay in contact with them when it's extremely important for you to do so. That does it for the show today. Watch some of the social media for things that are coming out with the 30th anniversary celebration this weekend. There's going to be lots of photographs, and maybe I'll get to do some soundbite interviews while I'm out there. Again, if you're out there, please come look me up. And in all things, I think I say this at the end of every show, that may God bless the men and women of the United States military. May God bless the veterans that have given parts of their lives, emotions, parts of their bodies, so that this country and our freedom could exist and persist. And especially, I always put in my special little request for prayers of safety for the men of the 75th Ranger Regiment, those brave men that stand ready in the night to visit violence on those who would do us harm. And believe me, there are those who would do us harm. Thank God those Rangers are out there. That beautiful rendition of Taps is a public domain recording created by a soldier or employee of the United States Army, and as such is not eligible for copyright protection in the United States. Kenny Thomas' song Send Me is used by permission of Kenny Thomas. All other work or recording is original work or used by permission. This has been a presentation of Gallant Fuse, the New American Veteran, on the Vets on Media Global Network.